pleasant events, what that is. When we find time to do something we enjoy each day, our mood, our overall outlook on life, and our ability to care for others actually improves because we're taking better care of ourselves. And part of taking better care of ourselves is trying to find something, hopefully every day, even if it is 15 minutes, that we can do that I just like calling it a pleasant event, something that I have to look forward to. So finding the time to do these things can be a challenge. We know that whenever we've got the responsibilities of taking care of another person. But if you don't make the time, you can begin to feel burned out. You can begin to feel frustrated. And if you've been in the support groups the last couple of weeks, we've been using this term, compassion fatigue. And part of finding those pleasant events to take care of yourself and to do with your loved one, if your loved one is still at home, it is very helpful to combat compassion fatigue. So what compassion fatigue is whenever you are physically, emotionally, and spiritually drained. You are exhausted. And the reason you're exhausted in all of those areas is because of your caregiving. It's called compassion fatigue. It's a real thing. It's actually a diagnosis that's being made now, and you find it more and more in caregivers of those with dementia or any other terminal illness. Is where you see it. So taking time for yourself is important, and you know that because that is why you are here. So one of the things you do is you just kind of have to brainstorm with yourself, and some of this is going to seem really simple, but I'm hoping that after we talk through it, you go, well, you know, I hadn't thought about that in a while because I've been so busy with all of my other things that I have to do. But when we have too many unpleasant experiences or too many tasks, which is a word that we hear an awful lot from caregivers, is I just have all these tasks that I have to do. And we have too few pleasant activities, that can actually trigger us into a season of depression. Or it can just really bring on this, like we've got the black cloud hanging over us. So sometimes just finding, like I said, that 15 minutes a day or several times a week to start to do something for yourself. The other thing that this does is it makes us feel like we have some control in a situation where lots of times we don't have any control. We were doing a program this morning, and we talked about in that program, you know, kind of being able to separate in our mind, here are the things I can control and here are the things I cannot control. I cannot control the diagnosis of my loved one. I cannot control that it's progressive. Those things I cannot control. I can control how I react and those type things. And I can also control this, trying to find that activity that I can do for myself. And we're not only going to talk about things we can do for ourselves, but things we can do with our loved one if that's a possibility. You can get to the point that you may go, and some of you may have already experienced this, where you just are like, what's the use? Throwing your hands up. It seems like there's nothing I can do to make things better. And there are some things that you can do, and you can start with these very, very small steps. I pulled this from a program that I used to do whenever I was working with the Alzheimer's Association on a grant through the Rosalind Carter Institute. And it was the REACH program. And some of you may have done the REACH program through the United Way or through some other, but this, actually sitting down with somebody and kind of brainstorming through, because I used to get to go in people's homes and do this with them. It was amazing the things that people would go, when was the last time that and they were trying to think of the last time they'd done something for themselves, just to make them, to have that something to look forward to feel good. So you can feel better by making sure your day has a few things that bring you pleasure. We all need something to look forward to. So we want to start small and keep it simple. We don't want to make all these big plans. We're going to have to go out and we're going to have to buy this and get that and carve out the, you know, you will hear Jamie and I in different programs use that KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it super simple. Keep it super simple. The important thing is that you can choose an activity that you can either do every day or a few times a week, and choosing small things that don't require a whole lot of planning is a great way to start increasing the pleasure in your life. And most of us, if we got to digging around in closets or in drawers or in that spare room, are going to find things we started and then we put it away. I think most of us can say that. Being able to go and dig that back out. You know, this is a funny one. Some of you are going to get this. The hook rugs. Y'all remember those hook rugs we used to do? I found a hook rug that was about a quarter done in the top of a closet, and it's a Christmas one. So I got it out and said, I'm going to finish this hook. Whenever I remember how to do it, I'm going to finish this hook rug whenever I'm sitting here, because it's got a picture of Santa on it, and now I've got a grandbaby. So I don't know when the last time was I saw that thing, but that's one of these. So figuring out what it is that you can do. And for those of you who like to do worksheets or writing, which I am one of those, whenever you're a planner, other people just like to kind of think it through. You just think back on activities that bring you pleasure, activities that you like to do, picking one, trying to schedule it, knowing that we have to be very flexible whenever we're taking care of somebody with dementia. We can't always write it in pen, but we can write it in pencil, where we're going to plan on doing it at this particular time, even if we have to erase it and push it further down in the day. We are planning to do it. Picking out what it's going to be. If you do need some material, what is it that you need? Steps that you need to take. You know what? I have heard several of you that are on this right now go, you know, my husband, my wife, my brother, sister, parent takes a nap from this time to that time. And I'm going to now do this a couple of times a week. Or they sleep late, so I'm going to get up a little bit early. Or they go to bed early, so I'm going to do this evening instead of plopping in front of the TV, which sometimes plopping in front of the TV is a good thing and can be one of these pleasant events. So some things, and I put a list on here, but there were some of them that I kind of wanted to talk through a little bit so that it's not just, yeah, listen to music. Yeah, I do that all the time anyway. There's different types of music. We all know that. I can't tell you how many playlists on this phone right here, and I have playlists according to what my day's been like. I've got a playlist that is specific for going to work, and I've got a playlist specific for leaving work, because it's a different type of music that I listen to when I'm on my way to do what I do every day. And it's a different type of music I listen to when I'm on my way back home to my family. So thinking about that whenever it comes to music, and then making a time to sit and go, you know what, instead of watching TV for 2 hours, I'm going to take 15 minutes and listen to some music, and then I'm going to watch my shows. And you may catch yourself listening to music a lot longer than that, especially if you'll go back and find something from your music set. So each of us has what's called a music set, and it is the music that we listened to usually between the ages of 10 and 25. It's about that 15-year span, 10 and 25. It was the music of our youth. It was the music when we were teens and early adults. And that's the very same music whenever somebody gets dementia that they tend to go back to. Maybe they haven't listened to the Beatles in years, but they loved the Beatles, and you bring the Beatles back, and it's the same for us. My go-to music is my music from when I was a teenager. So we have that music set, and I'd encourage you to listen to that music from when you were 10 to 25. So window shopping, I bet that there's young people today that doesn't even know what window shopping means because we don't window shop anymore, but we can Amazon shop, where we can sit and look at things and just scroll through stuff. Starting to think about the holidays. Maybe I'm going to buy this, starting to buy some things for the kids or the grandkids, and actually going ahead and buying something for yourself. And that is easy to do now because it can be delivered tomorrow. And now I'm not talking about a diamond ring, but just something. I got myself, I don't think I have it here with me today, a really pretty journal. and it didn't cost very much money, but it's got a really pretty outside and a Bible verse on it that I like, and that encourages me to make sure and write in it every day. And it was just something that I got for myself. Being able to take a walk, if you're able to do that, if you're able to get out, and especially now that the weather is not 102 degrees, we can get out and take walks in the morning or maybe in the evening. And then I wanted to make sure and put read on here, and this is reading for pleasure. This is not reading the latest book on dementia. This is not reading the latest, because we tend to do that. Every one of us, I'm guessing, has a shelf or two or three or bookshelf of either books about health or brain health or dementia. That's what's, if you can see what's actually behind me, that's what our bookshelves are covered in. But to actually pick up something for pleasure, or to pick up a magazine at the grocery store, I call them my trash magazines, where I don't have to think very much whenever I'm flipping through the pages of the People magazine, just for pleasure, to take some time. I like to take them and sit outside, and I call them, I'm just going to sit out here and read my trash magazine and sit outside and listen to the birds and listen to the pool. I've got a bubbler on the pool. Going out to eat can actually be a treat, and restaurants are opening back up. Even if it's going out to eat by yourself, sometimes that's actually a really good thing, is to go out to eat by yourself and do some people watching. But just kind of having that break, going out to eat, going someplace as simple as the Sonic and sitting at the Sonic and getting something to eat or drink and just having a little bit of time. Cooking or baking your favorite food, doing it not because it's dinner time, but because I want to, because we're getting ready to go into fall and I want to bake and I want to have those sensory, I want to smell those things that make me think of the holidays. So doing some of that for pleasure, not because it's an obligation. And then something we've kind of gotten away from is writing cards and letters, because we send a text or we send an email. But imagine if you got a card from somebody, a handwritten card. We just don't hardly do that anymore. And lots of times you can have the time for that, because that's something you can do sitting in your chair, even while you've got a show on or you've got some music on, where you actually write out a handwritten note to someone. Doing a craft or hobby, like me finding the hook rug, going back and thinking, what did I like to do in the past? What was it that I enjoyed? Did I do needlepoint? Did I crochet? Did I do woodworking? What was it that I enjoyed in the past? And trying to go back and get back into that. I had somebody, and I think I've got it coming up on the next slide, and it was talking about music. And she said, I don't remember the last time I played the piano. I used to play all the time. And it actually ended up becoming something that she did with, it was her dad. Her dad, she would start playing the piano and he'd come in there. And it ended up being a really good time for them to connect and share and make some good memories. Exercising can be pleasant. I know most of us are going to go, what? It can be, if you find something that you like to do, or doing some type of a yoga or a meditation, or just something where you're moving. And then talking on the phone to somebody that doesn't have to do anything with dementia, kind of like reading, talking on the phone for fun. Here's a few more things. The movies are starting to open back up. My daughter actually went to the movie theater this weekend. So go into a movie or renting a movie for fun, something that you've been wanting to see, or it can be something that you've seen a million times. I was trying to see if, oh, I don't see her on here. Somebody on one of the support groups last week or week before said she had rented or found on Hulu or something 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton and Jane Fonda, and just something fun. So doing something like that just to have fun and to laugh. Taking a drive, not in traffic, but getting out of town and getting away from the traffic and just taking a drive. Making yourself a picnic in your backyard, or going out to a park somewhere, having someone come over for fun, having a friend come over, buying yourself a bouquet of flowers, or if you have flowers that are blooming right now, or planting flowers right now. We did that this weekend. We got out and put in some fall plants, and garden is on there. Sitting outside at night and looking up at the moon and stars. That's one of those things that we don't do. We get so busy. And when was the last time that you did it? To actually sit outside or to watch the sunset, or if you're up early in the morning to watch. This morning when I opened my blinds, it was orange outside. The whole sky was just an orange color. It was beautiful, and I hadn't seen that in a long, long time. Spending some time with children. If you've got some children you can be around, and then watching a favorite TV show, doing an intentional, again, where you can go back and you can either find on things like Hulu or Netflix, you can find Mary Tyler Moore, Carol Burnett, those old shows that are fun. We mentioned something last week, we were talking about Green Acres and Andy Griffith and those type shows. Or if you have a favorite TV show that comes on now. And then there's things that you can do with your loved one where you are doing this pleasant event with them as their wife, as their husband, as their daughter, their son, their friend, not as their caregiver. And this can really be a way to connect so that you're not thinking of them and the things that you have to do for them as a task. This is a time that you can connect because getting away by yourself, again, can be difficult to do. Lots of times you can do some of those things like the music and the reading, that type, because you're there. But it's important to do things together that you both enjoy. And this can be surprising sometimes. We heard again this morning, where somebody talked about doing something together that they hadn't done in a long time, that they didn't even know if he'd remember how to do. And he did. And then turning that into something that's going to become a really good memory for the family. And the woman was talking about her husband had played the harmonica. And so she got a harmonica for him and the son and the grandson. And they all played at the harmonica and they videotaped it this weekend. And those are good memories for them to make. And she wasn't even sure that he was going to know how to do it. So if somebody played the guitar, they played the piano, even if they didn't play something, we've talked about, and those of you who have been in a lot of our programs, where we talk about that rhythmic side of the brain stays for a long time, that right side, the right rhythm, and they can beat on a drum or have a tambourine. They will be able to keep rhythm and keep beat for a very, very, very long time. So having upbeat music that you can tap to or pat to. I have made drums out of great big things of laundry detergent when they're empty, the big plastic 5-gallon buckets, turning those over, beating on those, and making a drum out of it. We even used to take those, it was a kitty litter coming in those great big plastic ones, and we took like a shelf liner and put it around it so that we decorated it. And then we used wooden spoons on it and made our own drums. We did that in the day program at one point. You may feel that your loved one doesn't like doing certain things, but it is beneficial to arrange simple activities together that you can both enjoy so that you're not always the caregiver. And I will encourage you to try some of these, even if you think it's something that they might not enjoy, because you might be surprised. I used to hear it over and over and over in the day program. My dad, my mom, my husband, my wife does not like art. And they'd come back at the end of the day and I'd show them this painting or I would show them something that they had created. What? Because that kind of stuff is over here on the right, and that stays longer in somebody who has dementia. And they may have never done it before, and now they might. So try to think of 3 to 5 activities that you and your loved one might both enjoy. Find one you believe you can do on a regular basis so that it can become part of a routine. And if you're having a hard time thinking of something, think back to the past of some things that you might have done together in the past, or something that they enjoyed that you're willing to try. You may have to modify the activity though. So I've had people say, yeah, they used to love doing jigsaw puzzles. He could put together a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Well, we can't do a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle anymore. But on Amazon, they make jigsaw puzzles that don't look like a children's puzzle. They look like it's an adult puzzle that only have 40 pieces, and the pieces are that big. So if you type in activities for dementia or dementia activities on Amazon, it'll pull up all kinds of stuff. I just put a bunch of those puzzles on our wish list here at the West Center because it's something that our residents like to do. And they're very pretty puzzles also. You'll enjoy putting them together because they're not that hard. But the pieces are big. And so with their fine motor skills, they can still get a hold of them. So you just modify that activity. Maybe they liked to do crosswords. They even have some crosswords that are just real simple crosswords, but you might switch over to word searches, something like that, where you just modify the activity to make it work for them. And then try to commit to it and work it into your schedule whenever you can, because if you don't try it, you will never know. It's worth trying. So some things that you can try with somebody who has dementia, we know they love to sort. And so especially while they have fine motor skills earlier in the disease, maybe early into mid, they might like sorting things like beads, poker chips, cards, dominoes, things like that. I have watched people sit with cards and just create and come up with things to do with large playing cards. And you can order playing cards that are like 5x7s. You can get those on Amazon. You can also get them. I bet you're not going to be able to see this. Maybe if I put it back here. There's a catalog. Nope. It's called S&S Worldwide. S&S Worldwide. Jody, can you type that in? The thing, S&S Worldwide. And you can order online, but they also will send you a great big catalog, and it is filled with things that you can do with somebody with dementia. And like they've got bowling pins that are this tall and they're inflatable, so you can do bowling games. They've got all kinds of fun stuff in there that you might enjoy also. And whenever we send this out, we can send it, but it's S&S Worldwide. Actually, I think the website is ssww.com, ssww.com. They also like to count. Many times they like to count just like they like to sort, and they might count tickets. Or a lot of people will shred or cut. And if you've got a shredder and you keep a box of things that need to be shredded, you can set that shredder box right in front of them, and they'll sit there and feed stuff through a shredder. I've had people burn up shredders before because they've sat there and shredded, because they're helping you, first of all, because they're doing something that needs to be done. So they've got a purpose and a meaning, and especially if you're sitting there with them. And oh, look at that. What are we doing with this bank statement? You know, and we're going to go ahead and shred all this stuff, and we're talking while we're doing it. Things that are have a repetition, like raking leaves or sweeping, many times that's something we can continue to do together, is doing the yard work or doing some housework, folding clothes. They might not fold it exactly like you want them to fold it, and that's okay. That's where you're going to be the one that accommodates the disease, because they can't. So going ahead and allowing them to fold those clothes, even if you go back later and refold them, or that's where you go, you know what, it's okay. They didn't fold the towels like I folded, but it's okay. They folded the towels. Another thing that you might try, and I've used this over and over, and it's reading aloud from a familiar book. A lot of people, if they studied the Bible, that was the book that I was asked to read the most when I was a volunteer with hospice, was to come in and read the Bible to people. Or go back and read a book that you know was one of their favorite books. I had a woman who wanted me to read Little Women, and I ended up reading Little Women to her, and she would just sit and listen to that story, especially if it is something from their past. If you can go back and either find a book of theirs and just to read out loud, sit side by side and read. Cooking and baking together, again, for pleasure, not because we have to, not because it's dinner time, but because we want to. We want to make some cookies, and make it something simple so that they can stir, they can pour things in. you might measure it out and hand it to them and let them pour it in the bowl. We accommodate the disease. Music, again, is huge, but actually getting up and dancing, that was something else that people used to tell me, oh, no, 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 my dad will never dance. And then I'm sending them a video of dad's dancing. Yes, he does dance. Or he's patting, or he's clapping, or he's enjoying music. Planting seeds is also something where you either plant inside or outside, but starting a window box. Had a lot of people start window boxes and planting the seeds and taking care of the seeds every day. And that kind of becomes almost like a therapeutic type thing for both of them, where they look forward to watching the seeds come up. Looking at old photos is also something, especially if they're earlier in the disease and they can identify. If those photos don't have names on the back of them, that's a good time to get those photos and get the names put on the back of them, and the year and the place and all that type of information. Here's some more, and a lot of them kind of overlap with what I had for things to do for yourself, but just getting out of the house. Let's take a drive and go get an ice cream. Let's take a drive and go to Sonic and get a cherry limeade. Let's go get a cherry Coke. You know, going back to those things we used to do. That was a treat. And that's a place that you can go and you never have to get out of the car. So it's a good place to go. Putting Cheerios on a piece of yarn and then hanging them outside for the birds. That's something easy to do. I've had people try the putting peanut butter on the pine cones and then rolling it in the bird seed. Just be prepared to have bird seed and peanut butter everywhere, and be okay if they decide to eat it. That's the only other thing. That's why I like the Cheerios, because if we start eating the Cheerios, that's okay. That's all right. Also in this S&S or at Michael's or at Hobby Lobby, Walmart may even have them, they make coloring posters. They're a little bit bigger and they're black and they're velvet feeling. It's like a black velvety coloring poster, and that way you can't get out of the lines. And a lot of them are made for adults. They look like an adult poster that they might be working on, and it's something that is one of the things that our residents love to do. And that's been one of those things also that has surprised families sometimes, that they'd be interested in doing that. But think about what it is. They can feel it, so it's that tactile, and then they can see it. But those are really, really great. And you can order, again, you can order those on Amazon. You can pick those up in the store. They also really like throwing games. So horseshoes, washers, cornhole, things like that, where you can throw, because that is a gross motor skill. That's not a fine motor skill. And then doing things like finishing famous sayings. And you can go online and type in famous sayings and it'll pull you up a whole slew of them. And then you can sit there and play that back and forth. It's raining cats and Bonnie and who? Mary had a little what? And you can just do that back and forth. Or you can just use nursery rhymes. Sanding on wood, that's another thing, because that's a repetition, something you do over and over. Cutting out pictures from magazines, making collages. We are right at time. But I just encourage you to think about things that you've done already, things that you might be able to do, not only for yourself, but also with your loved one. There is our information.